Hello, good morning students. Please subscribe the channel, drop a like, share and comment. Today's transcription number 466 of Sir Kailash Chandra's volume number 22 on the speed of 120 words per minute. Start. Mr. Vice Chairman, Sir, as a basic human need, shelter comes next only to food and clothing. Even the early man discovered caves to seek shelter against the vagaries of nature. Today, with rising population, many of the developing countries have to cope with and suffer malnutrition, disease, illiteracy and hunger. Yet, it is the housing problem which seems to be the most intraceable one. About one-fourth of the world's population is either houseless or lives in abysmally poor and unhealthy environment. In India, sir, according to the 1981 census, 2 lakh urban households and another 4 lakh rural households have been without shelter. Taking into account the overcrowding and the awful congestion and the need to replace the kacha houses and repair the degraded and dilapidated ones, the actual housing deficit is to the tune of 59 lakhs in urban areas and 188 lakhs in rural areas. This deficit of housing is expected to rise to 39 millions by the year 2000 AD. Sir, 25% of the urban population in India lives in slums, which are without basic services. Another 20% of the urban population consists of households that are slum dwellers and live in single room units. Sir, this is the housing scenario in our country at the moment. In the early years of our planning with the weak economy that was inherited at the time of independence, housing was not on the top of national agenda. The first priority obviously was to provide food for the people. A massive national program and endeavor has resulted in self-sufficiency in food, and we can be legitimately proud of our industrial progress also. In the sphere of communications and health services, we have made major strides and the government has also intervened to ensure that clothing is provided reasonably to people in the country. With a fair amount of success in the other spheres, the attention now has obviously to turn to housing and, of course, to education. In the last decade, quite a few schemes were promoted for encouraging housing activity. For the first time, a policy of housing has been formulated to grapple with the situation. It seeks to provide affordable shelter to every citizen in the country by the turn of the 20th century. Experience has shown that housing units raised by the official agencies for the poor are too expensive and the intended benefit does not reach the beneficiaries for whom the schemes are launched. Now, the housing policy acknowledges the imperative of bringing the prospective beneficiary to the center of development process, and it emphasizes on involving the people in the housing and development programs. This is a welcome change, a welcome shift in the strategy to combat the problem. Man has always had the instinct to build a shelter for himself. Nothing else explains the mushroom growth of slums. However, a slum dweller being in constant fear of being evicted from the land which he has encroached upon does not really spend much on building a shanty for himself even by his own standard. if he were to be assured of the security of tenure over that particular piece of land, and if that were not possible, if he were to be offered an alternative developed piece of land and provided with the basic services like water and sewage system, street lighting, and other important amenities, and also offered some small loan on soft terms. I am sure that every household will be able to build for itself a house which would conform to the basic minimum housing norms postulated by the housing policy. Sir, Gram Panchayats, municipal committees, and the non governmental organizations could also be associated in this national endeavor, particularly in the process of disbursement and repayment of loans, and also for encouraging the cooperative societies, thus relieving the government of some burdensome task. Sir, today you know that the price of land is escalating at an unimaginable rate. Big business people, big land developers, and property dealers enter the business of real estate, which leads to speculation, and this has raised the price of a small housing plot to such a high level that at least 60% of the population cannot afford even a plot of 15 square meter, which is the minimum norm fixed for housing in the urban areas by the government. Sir, it is in this perspective that I say that any housing policy can serve a useful purpose only if the task of developing the land for housing purposes is taken over entirely by the government. The role of private builders in contributing to the housing activity in the cities cannot be undermined. But cases are not wanting where people investing their lifelong savings in a house plot have been cheated by the property dealers. Land mafias have come up in almost all the major towns and cities of the country.